Hello and welcome to the Southbound Sports Show. I'm your host, Richie Leahy, here with my co-host, Matty B. Coming off, the divisional round of the NFL playoffs. Tom Brady, once again, is going to the conference championship game. And I titled this show, Tom Brady is the luckiest quarterback of all time, because I saw an article today where they were trying to say that Tom Brady's success is basically all luck, because he wouldn't have won that game if Drew Brees wasn't so bad, or going back through time, he wouldn't have won certain games like the Rams Super Bowl if the defense wasn't that good and all this other stuff. But look at it. He came into a Tampa Bay team that hasn't made the playoffs, let alone even been knocking on the door. It's not like whenever, Peyton Manning went to the Broncos, they had a playoff win with Tim Tebow on their roster. Tampa Bay wasn't even on that level for him to just walk in and then do whatever. I think that was the timeline. Wasn't Tebow first to beat the Steelers?
I feel really confident saying that right now, in the state that you're in, you could quarterback Tampa Bay to a playoff win.
Why?
Because the Tampa team from last year and the Tampa team from this year are two different teams. And take the quarterback out. They got Leonard Fournette. They got Gronkowski. They signed Antonio Brown late in the year. But all they did was they just went out and were like, hey, we're going to get every single offensive weapon that we can humanly possibly get. And it's like, surprise, surprise. They're playing for the NFC Championship.
But those guys didn't come just randomly. They came because Tom Brady was there. Gronk was retired. They weren't going to get him to come play with me at quarterback. And they're not going to get Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown is staying out of trouble because of Tom Brady. Tom Brady had him living at his house over there. So if you're looking in terms of quarterbacking, the guy knows what he's doing. It's not just on a whim he goes out there. Remember, the Saints killed the Buccaneers twice this year. The Buccaneers defense, I looked it up. They're in the top 10. I was surprised. I know that they were a playoff defense, but they weren't as good as the Saints defense. And for them to just have as many turnovers as they did and just gave Tom Brady the short field, it was like people were surprised that Tom Brady was able to take advantage of it. And he ran the ball in. He just took it there the last time. It just said, I'm ending this game. So I don't think you can just plug and play any quarterback in, because there's been times where other teams have done similar moves where they say, you know what, we're going to go ahead and stack our team, and then they just miss the playoffs completely. You got to have a guy that can keep it all together. And, he's not – the difference between him and Drew Brees couldn't even attempt a deep pass. I kept waiting for him to just take a shot. Tom Brady took 5 or 6 deep throws, and a couple of them were on the money. There was one to Mike Evans, almost down the seam, where the defender made a great recovery play. Otherwise, that could have been a touchdown. He hit Godwin in the end zone. Godwin dropped it. That was spot on. There's another one down the sideline. He let it up just enough. It was a perfect throw to Miller on a wheel route. And he didn't throw it deep enough for the safety to come over. Miller, he just had enough touch on it so that Miller could just catch it and fall to the ground for a 20, 30-yard completion. Not a lot of quarterbacks are making those deep throws. Drew Brees, they had no confidence in Drew Brees because you could see, when was that play with Jameis Winston? Second quarter? First quarter?
Yeah, it was around the second quarter.
When they threw that play, I knew they were done. They were like, we need to take a deep shot. What's our best option? And they said, Jameis Winston off the bench. And then that was it, Matt. I knew Drew Brees doesn't have it. They have no confidence in him taking a deep shot. And that was the game. After that, the Buccaneers knew it. They blew the coverage on that throw. And I could see a lot of people just on the momentum, and like ESPN overreacted saying like, oh, the Saints have the game. But I knew if you're going to go to that tricky type play just to get Winston in to throw deep, there's something wrong with your quarterback. And they knew it. And to them not just flip to Winston after, the second interception, I think if they would have done that, maybe they could have pulled that game out just because of the element of surprise. It wasn't like Winston's pass was off the mark. That was a perfect pass. How could he have been any worse, Matt?
No, you're not going to hear me complain because I'm curious to. I do think that it'll be Winston's show next year with New Orleans. I think that was kind of why he was willing to take the lower deal this year and be able to be the backup so that he could learn that system and be better prepared to go into the following year as the starter.
And we can get into that in a second. But you made fun of me. You were laughing last week when I was talking about how awesome Tom Brady was, Matt. Do you have an apology ready?
No.
Why not?
For the exact same reason that I just said. When they went out and surrounded him with all the talent, I'm not surprised by it.
Well, we'll see. If he beats Aaron Rodgers, and we'll just do our predictions now. If he beats him, there's zero excuse for anyone that has an anti-Tom Brady as the greatest of all time. He already doubled up Joe Montana's playoff wins or whatever. And even his championship game appearances, 14, that's unreal. Some teams haven't even made the playoffs since Tom Brady has been in the league, Matt. He's been to 14 championship games with 2 different teams. Unheard of. Unheard of. So they're going to Green Bay. You would think that they would have the elemental advantage in Green Bay, but Tom Brady did play in New England for how many years? So did Gronk. Antonio Brown played in Pittsburgh. I know not as cool, but they have some guys that do have that experience. The rest of the Buccaneers team, they weren't winners anyway, so this is all new to them. Who do you got in this game?
Well, it's a toss-up. I would say I'm going to go with Green Bay in this, just because I don't think that it really matters on the NFC side. I like Buffalo for the Super Bowl win.
So you're going to pick Buffalo over the Chiefs?
Yes.
Even if Mahomes plays, because we don't know if that's going to happen yet.
Well, I think because of the speculation, I think that Buffalo's going to come in more confident knowing that the potential's there.
I think Buffalo is a perfect matchup for the Buccaneers. I think, and so my pick, I'm going to pick Green Bay just because it seems like when I pick against them, they win. And I definitely want my man Tom Brady going to another Super Bowl. So I say the Packers by 10. Let's go ahead and just put it out there. That's what a lot of people were predicting in the Rams game. And the Rams seemed like they had some offense, and they got into the same Saints mindset where they just weren't taking any shots. They weren't really doing anything, and they just let the Packers control the game. And when you're not scoring and you're just hanging out and doing whatever, you're not going to win the game. You can't go into a playoff game and play scared like that.
Yeah, but I think part of that also was that they were covering up how injured Goff was.
Oh, I know.
For as basic as that game plan was, they really weren't doing a lot with him throwing. I think that was, we don't really have a lot of other options.
Well, that's why I was thinking, like, when he came out and he was on fire the week before, I wonder how much of that was just adrenaline and not knowing that he was going to even play. And then this past week, when you're practicing the whole time because you are the guy, I mean, there's not much else you can do. So I think that was part of their game plan. And they knew that he was injured, and there was nowhere for them to go from there. Like, that was it. And they just took their shot. McVay has a good program there, though. And so I wouldn't hold them out. Akers had a couple big runs. They're going to be around for a few more years if they can keep some of those core guys happy. Like, that's not a team to just look by. Compared them to their division, where you have like the Seahawks that always seem to just fall out of the division late. and the 49ers that I think were a flash in the pan where they have one good run and then that's going to be it for them. I think the Rams are the team that are going to start to hang around a lot more, taking over that Seahawks competition slot where they're competing every year. So that's a team that's going to be back around. Aaron Rodgers, to me, though, he has to win. There's no excuse. If they want to talk about him being one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, kind of like Drew Brees. Like, I know Drew Brees has all the numbers. He didn't look good. And so getting into his retirement questions, I would say Drew Brees has to retire. Watching that game was sort of like Peyton Manning. Whenever Peyton Manning was with the Broncos and they came out and he was barely able to throw the ball. No downfield shots. A lot of passes were inaccurate. There was the one interception where he had Michael Thomas and he just threw it right underneath for an interception. And it was almost like, what are you doing? Like, could you not deliver that ball? It was nowhere close. A couple other ones that were just like in the dirt. And so I just think he's done. Without the deep shots, and that's what Tom Brady had some accuracy problems all year, but a couple of his deep balls were so accurate that I have to give him a pass. Drew Brees wasn't threading the needle on that pass to Miller in a key situation late in the game. There's no chance of that pass being completed. The one to Godwin should have been a touchdown, I thought. Hit his hands. I don't know if he thought he was too close to the goalpost the way he stretched out, but that was a perfect pass by Tom Brady. Drew Brees isn't making that throw. And I think it's pretty clear he hung out on the field after, and like him and Tom Brady were hanging out. Tom Brady was throwing the ball to his kids or whatever. I think that that's going to be it. He's retiring. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I kind of thought that too. I thought the writing was on the wall, and it was being speculated that towards the end of the game, Brees was standing by Winston and looked at him and said, "It's your team now," or something like that.
And that's why I think they stuck with him. Because if you pull him and Winston leads them to a comeback, do you really want your franchise quarterback? Because the Saints don't really have anyone else. Was it Archie Manning? They're not hanging their hat on that. They're hanging it on the only guy to get them a Super Bowl win, Drew Brees, even if it was only one. Sometimes you got to take that. And so I don't think like for him to just get pulled, it wasn't going to happen. And they were going to let him battle, and they let him try. But like I said, you got to at least take some deep throws. I don't care if you're throwing them out of bounds. Like the defense had no worry at all. And so it's done. Jameis comes in, and that could be a whole different offense. I mean, we don't even know if Tom Brady's coming back. He says he's playing forever, but I think if he wins the Super Bowl, that could prove his point. Why wouldn't he just go out on top like John Elway? And then to even as a funnier situation, if he just won a Super Bowl and then went into the Hall of Fame as a Buccaneer. That'd be classic. I'm going to bring that up if he wins the Super Bowl because I think that's something that he should do because everyone like connects him with, oh, you're going to see Brady and Belichick in the Hall of Fame. They're going to be tied together. If he wins a Super Bowl with the Buccaneers in 1 year, that completely blows that up. It's not, like I said, it's not like he joined a loaded team. He helped bring players in. You're right. I'll give you that point. But that team wasn't loaded. So he did that on his own, and he's kept it together. Belichick, at that point, he would almost have to win one without Brady. To even be, I mean, you could consider him the greatest coach of all time, but I think everyone would kind of put an asterisk beside that. Losing record without the guy, he just wins Super Bowls without you. How many more could he have had with a better coach, Matt? We'll never know. Speaking of retirements, Ben Roethlisberger, there's been some hints that he is coming back. They fired the offensive coordinator. I'll let you go ahead on that, Matt.
So it was a move that I thought needed to be done. I thought that somewhere within the organization they needed to make a change. And I mean, I know that there are a lot of organizations in the NFL that would like to be in Pittsburgh's position where they're having winning records every year. But I think when you look at Pittsburgh and what they have right now, the window to make a deep playoff run and a Super Bowl appearance is right now. And they've just squandered the last couple of years. And I think that Tomlin should be on the hot seat, but because the Rooney family doesn't jump to make coaching changes like a lot of the other teams do, he gets a pass. So the next best thing in that is making coordinator changes. And I think in both coordinators should be on the hot seat so that it provides that extra room to start looking at. Tomlin needs to just do a better job. And they fire the offensive coordinator, and they bring in Matt Canada, who was at Pitt for a year, jumped to LSU, and got canned immediately. I don't even think he lasted the year at LSU. And then was at Maryland for a little bit, and now was an assistant last year. What are your thoughts on bringing Canada in as the offensive coordinator?
If Ben comes back, I don't think it really matters who the offensive coordinator is. It's almost like you've been around for so long. I know I feel like I've talked about Peyton Manning too much on this show, but it's kind of like when he interviewed with the 49ers and Jim Harbaugh, and it was clear that Harbaugh was going to have a say in plays. Peyton Manning was like, nah. So I would imagine that Ben Roethlisberger is getting that same type of input right now where Tomlin's like, hey, we're going to get an offensive coordinator, and are you coming back? And Ben says, well, I'll come back if this guy's here, and then that's the guy they're going to hire. So I don't know what we'll see this year. I think that that's going to be a question after he leaves. And I didn't even really mind Matt Canada. I don't know what the problem is at LSU. It seems like Brady was kind of just like a perfect hire for them, win a national championship, and now everything has seemed to fall apart. Will they get better next year? I don't know. They seem to have issues inside the program itself. Maybe that wasn't the best fit for him, so I wouldn't hold that against him. I thought he did some good stuff at Maryland. Wasn't he there when Durkin was there?
Yes. He took over when Durkin was on his suspension.
And that's another thing, though, could be a black eye. I don't know how well connected to that stuff he was.
But this is it seems like the knock with Canada is that his system is purely built off of the motions and misdirections and shifts. And Pittsburgh and corporate, when they brought him on, you saw those wrinkles and variations in the early part of the year when they were playing well. And then for whatever reason, it was like they went away from that stuff. Just like I feel like he was doing those when LSU hired him away from Pitt. He started doing all those trades, and Ogeron put the handcuffs on. Like, it was reported that he wouldn't allow him to do as many of the trades and shifts. He wanted to just play more downhill. And when you take the misdirection out, his offense is really vanilla, which, I mean, it's what it's built on. So he took the thing that made his offense unique and was surprised when it fell apart. I think if he's going to be successful, if Pittsburgh's going to be successful in this format, they have to allow him to do it his way, and that may include Roethlisberger being willing to buy in more. Because I really don't understand the dynamic of when the offense is run right, it's all Roethlisberger. But when he throws 3 interceptions, it's that offensive coordinator's an idiot. So I don't know which way it goes, because it's Roethlisberger's calling the plays when they're winning, and he does well. And I don't know if that's just protection for him or if there's some actual fire there.
And I'm not even saying that he's the one calling all the plays. I think that he just has the final say, and he needs to just be comfortable making the audibles. I mean, a lot of the mistakes are just on him. I don't even know if they're trying to extend the play. Some of them were just inaccurate passes. The one thing that I think you could focus on is just better run game prep. It's like if you don't have a running game, and I don't even know what they could do to fix that. Do you take a running back? Do you try to make a trade? Do you bring a guy in? I mean, like a guy like Fournette, they could have brought in. We both talked about it. And why not? Why not make that run? I know you've been drafting running backs, trying to hit like you did with Willie Parker, but at some point you got to say this isn't working. We let our stud running back go. He was kind of keeping the offense off balance by himself, maybe without all that misdirection stuff. I don't know if you need that in the NFL. I don't know. So it could work. It just comes down to how comfortable is Ben with that offense. And is he going to learn a new system in 1 year?
I don't know that they have to go. Like, they're the sprinklings of Canada's offense, and I'm sure he can tailor the offense to some of the stuff that they're already doing as far as like naming formations and naming concepts. So it shouldn't be reinventing the wheel. It's not like he's completely changing everything. I think there would still be a lot of the concepts would still be familiar. It would just be how are they disguising and how are they packaging. And you look at when the Rams made the Super Bowl, they were using shifts and trades and motions and making things look the same. Same with Kansas City. They were running some stuff that was like out of the single wing playbook in their Super Bowl game that the misdirection was helping them out. So, I mean, it's doable, and it definitely adds an additional level of stress.
And that's something that we'll keep hitting on this offseason. I don't want to talk speculation just on the Steelers this whole show. But maybe we'll get some answers just on retirements because, like I said, I think Brees has to retire. I would think rather soon. It doesn't make sense for him to string it out. Roethlisberger is known to string his out until, March usually. I feel like at least after the Super Bowl before he makes his decision. And then there's some other ones, like will Tom Brady come back? There's who else is rumored to go, possibly, like you have Phillip Rivers, a couple other guys that you don't know if they're going to be back or not. The other big one, not really retirement, but Patrick Mahomes. This is key. I know you already made your pick for the Bills in this game, but the concussion for him. The NFL was trying to play it off like it wasn't a big deal. He basically collapsed on the field. And I think the way the hit wasn't bad itself. The other guy had his neck or his arm around his neck that I think put his head in a bad spot. And I think if his arm wasn't caught around his helmet, he probably didn't even get hurt on that play. I think the defender's arm being caught in that angle didn't give his head any movement, and it just hit straight to the ground. I mean, he tried to stand up. He almost fell. They ran him out of the tunnel in the fourth quarter. And I thought if they put him back in here, Andy Reid's going to have so much heat on him because the NFL has been preaching that it's not the coaches or whatever that makes the decision. You have to have an unaffiliated doctor sign off on it. So they would have been able to do they have unaffiliated doctors at the games? I don't know. Maybe they do. I mean, I'm sure the NFL can do whatever they want. But I was surprised whenever it came down to the Chiefs, they need a successful drive for him not to run back out on the field. What did you think?
I thought he was going to be out. And I watching the hit, I thought it really didn't look bad, but as they zoomed in on his face, I mean, he clearly just looked like he had no idea where he was at. It was like, well, he's done.
Well, like I said, the hit, it wasn't even just the head hit. I think the arm of the defender was around his neck, so his helmet had no movement, and it just kind of almost like you gave him a pile driver right near the ground. And then
I'm just curious to see at this point how he can be cleared.
Well, see, that's my next thing. The average clearance for like a quarterback is 17 days. I guess not even a quarterback. Any player like on the NFL new protocol where you have to have an unaffiliated doctor sign off on it, the average has been like a 17-day out. Like the initial diagnosis, they said that he cleared the first couple checks, but he's still in the protocol. I mean, he's not out of it. They wouldn't pull him out in 2 days. So they don't know. It almost makes it seem like they're trying to just keep it up in the air to get the Bills prepping for both quarterbacks. But he also has, they said he also has a toe injury. I don't know if that would be a problem. But the concussion is going to be the big thing. And so I think right now Andy Reid's throwing misdirections out saying, oh, yeah, he's close, because he wants the Bills to kind of not just focus in on Chad Henne. And let's be honest, Chad Henne, he's been in the league for over a decade. He's barely played. Like, I tried to find stats for him. That was like his first playoff completion. Most of the time he's in the game just taking knees or giving handoffs. So they don't have film on him, which is going to just be a crazy thing. And actually, in terms of like good coaching, a quarterback without film on him could sometimes get hot. Luckily for the Chiefs, they probably don't need him because of the extra bye week going into the Super Bowl. I think Mahomes will be back for the Super Bowl no matter what. Unless it's worse than like what any other concussion could be. And I know some of them are worse, but with the NFL, we're not going to find out until like game day. But I would think that going into this game, Chad Henne's most likely going to be the quarterback. I would be shocked if Mahomes came back, because then you're just going to have all kind of scrutiny on the league. And so I just don't know. So you're sticking with your Bills prediction.
Yeah, I think the Bills have enough balance in their offense between run and pass, and I think like with what they're able to do with their design quarterback powers and Allen just moving enough in the pocket to just keep defenses honest. I think that's a positive element that Buffalo brings, that they can control the ball, they can control the clock, and just play keep away essentially from Kansas City's offense.
But you're forgetting the key aspect, Matt. Chad Henne, he's a Michigan man. Him and Tom Brady. I think he gets it done. And I think the Chiefs are going to be in the Super Bowl back-to-back years. I think it's been a while since that's happened. Probably Tom Brady, right? I don't even know if he goes back-to-back. But I'll say the Chiefs most likely are going to be in. I like the Bills. They've had their run. I actually thought that the Bills back in like Madden 99, they had the perfect team to build on. Wherever you could go ahead. Was it like the Willis McGahee years that they have him? Or maybe I drafted him. I can't even remember how it went. But they had a perfect situation like in right around the new millennium, and they never capitalized on it. So it's good to see them going with it now. It took them 20 years, man. But I'll say that they have a Tom Brady problem. And they finally get rid of him. Could you imagine if the Bills made the Super Bowl? They're like, yeah, Tom Brady's out of here. They go to the Super Bowl only to lose to Tom Brady again. Like, how heartbreaking would that be? Because they hate the Patriots. In the same division, they played the guy how many times? And he's always been the thorn in their side. He won the division like every year he was there. Like, just unreal. So, on one hand, it would be funny for them to make it all the way only to lose to Tom Brady again. But I don't think they're going to get there. I think the Chiefs win with Henne or Mahomes, whichever quarterback plays. I mean, did you see Henne's run at the end of that game, Matt?
Oh, I was waiting for that.
All the Browns had to do was stop them. Instead, they let the dynamic Chad Henne run for a touchdown, or run for a first down, basically, because the game was over at that point. It was like 4th and short. They had no idea what was coming. He just threw one out to Tyreek Hill, wide open. I mean, a perfect pass right after that. So, unstoppable. He had that big key run. Tom Brady had that touchdown run. I think that's the one thing that Michigan's been missing, Matt. A quarterback dual threat like that can just run and get yards and run for touchdowns and stuff.
And there you go. Problem solved. Maybe you should just go up there and just fix it for him.
I should tell him, like, hey, did you watch NFL hardball? Did you not see Tom Brady and Chad Henne? How they won those games?
You could say, hey, look at what your brother's doing, not winning games with a mobile dual threat quarterback.
Which, if you want to talk about that game, I don't even know if that was really their fault. And, like, I don't know. It was definitely on the offense. Someone told me, and I don't know if I'm trying to think of what the thing was. They think that it's almost like the triple option. Like, it will surprise you in the regular season because you can't, like, prepare for it full on. But once the playoffs come around and you're actually playing against a team with a solid defense, because you're not going to make the playoffs without a defense, it's very easy to shut down. And as a coach, what are your thoughts on that?
It involves being a very disciplined team to get that done. And I don't know if it's easier, but I think there has to be. Well, what's always hurt option teams is that there's this idea that they're so run focused that they don't have a passing game, and when you're not able to stretch the ball down the field, that's what really hurts you. Because when the safeties can really scream down into the box and take away the outside run threats, then you're really left on your own. And I feel like with Greg Roman, he is calling a great run game, but there's no play action. There's no, like, the passing game is so restricted for Lamar Jackson that it handcuffs the offense because there's not they have the speed to get guys downfield. It's like, just like what you were saying with the Saints game, where they're like, they never took a shot deep. It was like, there's no play action. There's no threat of pushing the ball down the field. So you have everyone just playing tight to the box, and they're making those plays. So it kind of makes things easier for the defense in that they don't have to worry as much about run or pass. It's contain Lamar Jackson in the box.
And I've always wondered, instead of teams like putting time in to do the wildcat, why not just try to do like an option wrinkle? Like, why would you do? I mean, you could very easily do like even a pistol or some type of like triple option or something where you're in the pistol, and instead of having the fullback dive, you have the running back dive, and then you have a wide receiver go in motion to play the pitch man. And it's perfect.
Well, that's basically this evolution of football. This is what the next step of it is. Like, if you don't have the running quarterback and you're not going to play like dive, pitch, option per se, it's the RPO game. So are you handing off on the inside zone? Are you throwing the key screen, whether it's a smoke screen or bubble screen on the outside, and trying to put those like outside linebackers in conflict?
You wouldn't even have to do that if you just had that wide receiver on the pitch side run a slant. Because if that inside linebacker bites to try to take the fake, you just kind of almost like a pop pass, just throw that slant. And then it's one-on-one. If they jam him at the line or whatever, that might get enough separation where the quarterback can then just keep and hit that outside edge. Or if they all go to the middle of the field and that outside linebacker takes a step in, then you're just on the outside with the pitch man. So I think that could be the next wrinkle that the Ravens go to. And I think there's a couple other teams that could just take that option and, I mean, just go with it. But you got to be quick enough to make reads. And what I know the big thing is like the downfield blocking. You don't have a lot of time to make the pass option. So your other one would just be take that pitch man, take a step, and then just throw like the backside fade. If you're trying to just get them to play honest, because you don't want the safeties creeping up. But
Right.
I don't know. Maybe I would say even a post, but you don't want to throw the ball to the middle of the field if your quarterback's focused on too many other reads.
Well,
Is
and
that
you don't want to have them like constantly looking downfield for those fades because that's a low percentage pass. Like typically with your RPOs, with those bubble screens, the hitches, the slants, they're high percentage throws that they're shorter distance to put the ball in the air, so you get the ball into the hands of your playmakers quicker.
well? That's what I said on the read side. But you could still have if you had a Calvin Johnson like the Georgia Tech did when they're running the option, and like okay, their safeties are creeping up. We're going to have a one-on-one shot. Why not? Yeah, it's a low percentage throw, but if you think your guy can beat the other guy and you have enough practice running it, because that's the one thing, you just don't want to add too many repetitions in because then everything else will suffer.
Well, that's almost like how Army is known right now for running the triple option, and they have to be able to at times push the ball down the field, or else it puts them at a disadvantage. I think you take that same principle of ball control and moving the chains, like that's essentially where Baltimore is right now, where the passing game isn't as highlighted because it's so much more Lamar Jackson break, contain, and run. Now, to his credit, I think he does a great job of not taking unnecessary hits. Like I feel like he's evolved where Cam Newton is so much bigger and takes so many extra hits that it's shaved years off of his career. Lamar Jackson and even Kyler Murray to a certain extent they're more quicker, agile quarterbacks they're taking off and then sliding and getting out of bounds, so they're not taking the unnecessary shots and the wear and tear on their body.
That's true. Because that's the one thing, and it almost reminds me of like when Kaepernick ran that similar situation with the other Harbaugh in San Francisco. The big thing was they didn't really even have a lot of deep shot options with him, just because you're so focused on just keeping things condensed. And so maybe it's just on the quarterback. Maybe they don't have the arm to hit those deep throws. I don't know. Because you could easily run some play action stuff and try to get guys open downfield. I think there was a shot. Was it Hollywood Brown? He overthrew him?
Yeah.
I can't remember.
There was. Yes.
Because that would have been, and then of course, the interception in the end zone, that would have swung the game. Because that was basically the difference. They took that to the house, didn't they?
Yep.
So they lost by 2 scores. Let's say Ravens score there or at least kick a field goal. They're down 4 going into the end of the game instead of down 2 scores. So that's the difference. I don't really know if the offensive planning was that when you have 2 good defensive teams. You can't make mistakes like that. The Steelers won a Super Bowl with that same play right before. Was it the halftime with the Arizona? They threw that pick 6. I think that was right before half. Same situation. You give the defense a swing like that when you should have been the team scoring. And that game even came back to Santonio Holmes' touchdown throws. But I'll say we'll be covering some more of this football strategy stuff this offseason. The last thing I wanted to hit on, though, the Browns, they got screwed on a targeting hit that at first, I don't know why they can't review it, because the guy hit him helmet to helmet. He made no play on the ball. I know their guy was diving towards the pylon, so the ball was outstretched, but he didn't hit him in the arms. He didn't swipe at the ball to try to knock it away. It was just a helmet-to-helmet hit. Very similar to like the look that Patrick Mahomes gave after he got hit in the head. That's what you saw there. When he got up, and it was almost like that could have been a concussion. And I have this that I wrote down to pitch to you, Matt. If you're a coach and because that guy got hit in the head and he knew he got hit in the head, why wouldn't you coach him to just lay there?
I think that's a situation awareness thing that you could possibly do that.
Because what quarterback was it? Allen for the Bills that took a flop earlier in the day. So I mean, players are getting taught to take a flop, fall down, get the penalty, and do whatever they need to do. But for that, I thought, okay, you stretch for the ball, you know you fumbled it. If you lay there, you might draw the penalty. Because they're going to say, what happened to him? Throw the flag and then review it. They're going to review the play anyway. But because they didn't throw the flag, he got hit in the head. There was no penalty. They said they couldn't review it to call targeting. So it screwed his team.
That surprised me because they review for targeting for everything. And I thought that's one of the more, like, for some of the calls, it's like, is it not? Like, that was a legitimate, like, by the book definition of what targeting is. Because his head was down, launched himself into the player. Like, it met every single criteria. They're like, nah, you're good.
Well, I wonder if it's college. Because I think that's where we might get mixed up. Because I thought at first, oh, that's a sure thing they're going to review it. But I know in college they have the rule where if it's a benefit of the doubt, or they give the team the benefit of the doubt that they're going to review every single one, they can add it on. If it's not caught on the field, they can add it. But to my knowledge, I don't think they can eject them unless it's caught on the field. Which to me, I think the Browns fans would have been fine with. All they wanted was the call so that it wasn't a fumble. Then they get the ball, because I think that would solve the rule. If there's targeting can't cause a fumble. Simple as that.
Yep.
Simple as that. They get the ball on the 1 yard line. It's a brand new game. Because I saw a lot of people complaining about, oh, that shouldn't be a touchback. Then what should happen? Because you're going to have teams, like if you're running out of time, who's to say you know you're going to get tackled on the one? You don't fake a spin move and throw the ball out of bounds to stop the clock. Like, what's the difference, Matt? Because I know I would tell my guys to do that. Like, hey, we're running out of time here. You run the ball, just spin and just throw it out of bounds. Who cares if it goes out the end zone? We're going to get it on the 1 yard line anyway. But make sure you're spinning so that it looks like it's a fumble. The guy spins and he just throws the ball right through his back shoulder as he gets hit. It'd work every time. Because they're going to be like, well, did he throw it or did he fumble it? And so that opens a whole other can of worms. But you can't risk it if you're going to spin it and throw it and it ends up going through the end zone for a touchback, Matt. So I like the rule. Plus, a guy's showboating, the ball gets knocked out of his hand and the defense recovers for a touchback. That's hilarious. So keep that in the game. There's no reason to get rid of that. And that's my thing. Go ahead. Keep that in. Why change it? The one thing that should change, the targeting should not cause a fumble.
You brought up a great point that the targeting should not lead to an ejection, and I agree wholeheartedly with that.
I don't think that's what I said.
At one point of all of the things that you just said, that was one of the points.
No, Mike, I said in college, if it's not caught on the field and they call it down as a review, I don't think they can eject them.
But I do think that, with that being said, regardless of the targeting, they shouldn't be able to eject him on the first call, because I think that changes the dynamic of too many games with some of these ones that are kind of ticky-tack. I think it helps to be able to enforce the penalty and to provide opportunities to make that change, to allow that player to make, like, if it's a one-play thing, that they have an opportunity, like, say they get 2 a game.
Well, here, no. I already have a better idea. Because
I knew you would.
Why don't they just have a penalty box? It works. Works in hockey. But I don't think that ejecting a player, they're not going to learn from that.
I'll do you one better. We'll just put them in a corner. We'll have just a special corner. They put their nose in the corner.
Well, I'm not saying that you're down a player. I mean, I guess they could go that extreme if they really wanted to. Could you imagine if, like, deer antler sprayed Ray Lewis is running around getting ejected or put in the penalty box where he's out for 2 minutes and they have to play 10-man defense?
He's just standing there with his nose in the corner. It would be hilarious.
But I'm saying if they had not really just like a penalty box, but that guy's out for the entire series or the next series, like whatever it is, they have to go out and then they're out and their teammates know it. Because I think that if a defense is being taught to just put their head down, like let's say in the national championship game, you had that Clemson guy do it, and then the very next series, an Ohio State guy was leading with their head, they're not going to call both of those. But if there's a penalty box situation, then they're going to call all of them. Because who cares if you have 5 guys in the penalty box? Like, that's it. Who cares? Like, if you have back-to-back plays where your guy's lowering their head, they're in the box, and that coach is going to be pissed that he has 3 or 4 guys in there at a time. And at first it might slow down the game a lot, but I think you would see a lot better coaching from that. And then eventually they'll learn. But right now, there's no way players can learn how to properly tackle if whenever they make their mistake, they're ejected and they're done for the game. And then part of the next game or whatever it is. So as a coach, what do you think?
It's a unique take. I think it would take a little bit of time to get used to, but if that was proposed, I'd go with it.
They're talking about getting rid of touchbacks and stuff, Matt. Like, they're going to ruin the sport no matter what. You might as well at least try to keep some semblance of what it is. You're going to have a better chance of losing big hits altogether if you don't do something drastic within the next 5 years, I think. Like, you're going to have players sit back and say, you know what we need to do? Like, we're just done. And then they're going to say, well, let's start calling. I think you're going to get games like basketball, where now in the NBA, you get touched, it's a foul. And it's like, why? Like, did he deter the shot? You have guys that are getting fouled, per se, that are completing crazy and one, like 3-point shots and stuff. Because realistically, they're not fouls. Like, back in the NBA days, a foul was like when you would get hit so hard, you weren't making the shot. Like, and ones weren't that common. You watch a game now, it's and one every time. So it's like, was that a foul? Why are you stopping the game for that? Like, at some point, you have to let them play. And if football goes that direction, where it's like, wow, it's too hard of a hit, that's a 15-yarder, then at some point it's going to be like, why am I watching this? But if you have guys in the penalty box, and then you're mad, and you're like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? Like, you're getting the penalty, and you're out of the game, like you're the captain. Like the Clemson guy, you're the captain, you're out of the series, like you're not going to come back. But he could come back even more pissed off the next series and make an even bigger hit. Who knows? So that's my thing for that. Do you have anything else on the playoff games?
No.
Anything else for the NFL in general?
Yeah, I know we're starting to get towards the speculation for the mock drafts, and I'm seeing some of the stuff come out for the Atlanta Falcons. It looks like they're potentially being mocked to draft Justin Fields. That would be the most ridiculous Atlanta thing that you could possibly do. Why would you waste your draft and the offensive production that you have on not taking a defensive player?
Because, Matt, offense scores championships. Didn't you just tell me that? Like Tom Brady, Tampa Tom?
You know, I'm very biased towards the offense, but I think you have to have some level of defense as well. Like, you can't just have nothing. And when you're dead last, like I think Atlanta was, like how many games did they lose because their defense couldn't get a stop anywhere? Like, I think you have to address your defense.
But look at the Ravens. They were getting stops everywhere. It didn't help them. But what if they had one better offense, Matt?
Of course. Just get one more guy. I think if they go in the offseason and I would say if they're drafting a quarterback, then they better be addressing their defense through free agency, because their defense has to improve. They can't just do what they did last year and just be like, well, I guess it's good enough we lost 56-55.
Well, I'm getting confused here. Why are you so invested in the Falcons? I thought you secretly loved the Raiders.
The Raiders invested in a defensive coordinator. They know that they're putting those pieces together. However, I was invested in Atlanta for the last several years because of Julio Jones, and his production carried my fantasy team. But I've lost confidence in his ability to be the face of the franchise.
So what you're saying is one more offensive guy might take more touches away from your guy.
Potentially, yes.
So it's a very selfish take of you. I just wanted to get that out there because I know people have been listening to the show. They need to know all the details. They can't have you talking about the Falcons and being so upset without knowing the real reason. You don't want Julio to falter. What's he doing? He's all falling off the edge anyway.
He has fallen off. That's why I said.
What if he had Justin Fields thrown to him?
I don't think it would matter because he has Matty Ice, and he was putting up ridiculous numbers.
Well, speaking of Matty Ice and going back to Roethlisberger and quarterbacks hanging on too long, how long do you think Roethlisberger has to hang on before he kills the franchise? Like you said, they're in a position to win now. They're not going to be able to rebuild if Roethlisberger hangs on to the point where they have no one left.
Well, I've thought of this. With his, $41 million?
It's something like that. It's something crazy.
Like $41 or $42 million. I know he's been very good with restructuring his contract and doing things to kind of get under the cap. But I think he gives Pittsburgh more flexibility by retiring and their ability to use that extra cap room then to address other needs. Fall on the sword. Just hang it up, Ben.
Well, if he retired, then they could bring in another guy that might be hanging around. Like if the Falcons brought in another quarterback, would they get rid of Matt Ryan? Would he be able to come in? Like I don't think he would do any worse than what Roethlisberger's been doing. You've seen a guy that can feed and then work on the run game. Like why not? So we'll get back on this because the other key, Urban Meyer to Jacksonville. Why wouldn't he just take Justin Fields? Like, does Trevor Lawrence even fit into his system? I guess he's more of an Alex Smith type. And he did have him at Utah. So possibly. But a guy that can throw the ball is not really Urban Meyer's thing. I guess he had Haskins. That was kind of like, that pushed him into retirement, though.
But he could have Haskins because he's a free agent. So he could literally sign him to the Jags if he wanted to.
Yeah, but I don't think that's a guy that fits his system.
But I don't know that he's going to run his system in the NFL. I don't know if he's going to just push some of that onto his offensive coordinator and just be more of the old CEO. Because if he's in that CEO role, then it's not going to affect his ongoing health conditions as much.
The health conditions, are they real, Matt?
Well,
we don't know.
We'll see. As soon as there become locker room issues, suddenly those same lingering health conditions.
This could work out perfect for me, though, because he could do the Nick Saban where he goes to the NFL and he fails so bad that his ego is so bruised. And then everyone kept saying, like, imagine if Nick Saban had Drew Brees. It might have worked out. He might never have went to Alabama. Like, what if Urban Meyer had drafted Justin Fields or Trevor Lawrence, like whatever one he doesn't get, if he fails? And then it will be like, oh, and the only way to heal that bruised ego is by going to his old college rival, Michigan, and winning however many national championships Nick Saban has won, 6, 7?
The only way that's happening is if they bring back NCAA.
Matt, you don't know. 2 years tops. Harbaugh's back for a year or two. He decides, like, I'm going to go back to the NFL. Like, I don't even think that Harbaugh had any solid offers, to be honest. He hung around with Michigan so long, sitting on that contract, taking a 50% pay cut. Like, you have to have not had any offers.
Or maybe it was 100% bet on himself. 5-star hearts.
He could have did that. I mean, so he's supposed to be getting the defensive guy, the linebackers coach from the Ravens. Probably his brother recommended him, which the Ravens defense did look pretty solid. So I think that that's a good pick. But I think he's co-defensive coordinator with another guy that hasn't been a coordinator from the Cowboys. So maybe I'd have felt better if he did like what Juwan Howard did at Michigan basketball, because Michigan basketball right now is playing lights out. He got, was it Martell? Like one of the old head coaches. Howard hired him as an assistant as a way to kind of guide him through like some head coaching stuff. And so I would like to see Michigan push their defensive coordinators in that direction. Like, hey, we're going to bring an older defensive coordinator, and you guys kind of fix it out. That's kind of what Ohio State did. They had a guy, and then they brought in what's the guy that flipped from Michigan to Ohio State anyway? Now I hate him so bad I forget his name.
Warner.
No. He was a defensive guy. He coached with the Ravens when they won the Super Bowl. I'm not even going to worry about saying his name because I don't care about him. But that's what they did. They brought him in as the expert to mix with their new guy that had no experience. And it seemed to work out pretty well. They had a good game plan for Clemson. I don't know if you can game plan for Alabama like that. But going off other sports, though, to get off football, the Pirates, Matt, they've been having a fire sale. They're going into complete rebuild mode. And so I wanted to bring this up because I know a lot of our listeners just listen to football. What would you think of us just changing our well, not really changing our podcast, but just focusing mainly on football from here on out? Because I know at the end of the show, we usually talk about other stuff. I want to talk about the NCAA basketball tournament here before the final bell. But I'm putting that out there now because, like, the Pirates, what point of us is there for us to talk about Pittsburgh baseball, Matt?
We could talk about where they are developing so that they're ready to go to the Yankees and the Dodgers and the other successful teams.
Who cares? Most of our show has been football for the past year or so, and I like it better. So I'm putting that out there. If you have any beefs or you want us to keep talking, because I know even hockey, whenever they went into the shutdown, and then we weren't sure if they were coming back, by the time they came back, it was football season. The Penguins didn't last very long anyway. I watched the Penguins play on Sunday, and they won in a shootout. And the shootout to me is still strange. Like, it's like a weird, like just play overtime hockey. I know that I was a fan of it at first, but actually I just want them to be consistent. If you're going to have it end like that, have the playoffs end like that. You know how awesome that would be? If, like, was it Gensel that had the game winner? Well, like, he just tapped it through, right through the legs of the goalie. Had no chance of stopping that slow-mo. But I'll say, like, that's what I would like to see, because I think that would help the viewership. But that's our thing right now. Hockey viewership's way down. Our football stuff, whenever we talk mainly football, our numbers are way up. So I'll put that out there. If you like us talking about other Pittsburgh stuff, I mean, we're still going to be talking about mainly NFL and then, of course, Big Ten, ACC football. But let us know what you think going forward, because once the Super Bowl is over, that's whenever we usually do our shift. And numbers usually drop off. So if you want us to just keep going football, that might help both sides out. And we can get into some of our game plan stuff like we were talking earlier about some of the RPO stuff with Coach here. If you're cool with that, Matt.
Love it.
All right, my last topic, though, NCAA basketball tournament. They're changing the dates and some of the traditional rules. So they shifted everything to where instead of having like the 2 play-in games spread out for TV, I'm glad they did this because I know I like to talk about like TV numbers a bunch. They're moving it. All 4 games are on Thursday now. And then they're going to have Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday and Monday as the first 2 rounds. So basically, everything's happening right away. If there's coronavirus issues, I'm not sure what they have built in. I was actually surprised, and I know that they're doing this kind of like back to back, but I was surprised that they didn't just spread it out more. Like, why play back to back games? Maybe they're hoping that they don't have issues, but like, look, Ohio State football had issues. There are still Big Ten teams that are having issues, and you're hoping that they're going to get to the tournament and not have issues. I don't know if that's realistic. I would have liked them to just say, and I talked about last week, just start it and say, hey, we don't care about conference tournaments this year. Like, just because of the coronavirus, we don't think it's good for the players. Whatever your regular season, that's it. Your regular season champ is your auto bid just for this year. And we're going to do the first round that week, and then there's a week in between or whatever. I mean, they could even just do the first round on college campus. But for whatever reason, everything's in Indianapolis. They're just doing everything in one day. Because, like, if you clear, Matt, you're on there, you can just play your game, and they'll never know you had coronavirus till the game's over. That's how I'm reading this. So we'll see if we get through it. That first round is going to be the killer round. Because if someone tests positive, whenever there's like 32 teams available, it's going to be really hard to get that. Once they get down past that round and you're into like the Elite Eight territory or whatever, I'm surprised that they didn't just say, like, let's do the opening round on campus because it's more controlled. I know you're going to have a lot more teams moving or whatever, but you don't have to house students. You don't have to do testing on site. You don't have to quarantine them. You don't have to limit movement or anything like that because they've already been doing that and they've been traveling and it seems to have been fine so far. But we'll see. The NCAA needs this money. They heard it last year. The NCAA tournament pays for basically most of their budget. So what will happen? We don't know. It's a day after St. Patty's. That Thursday it starts. But that's my last thing. They're making changes to try to get it in this year. Hopefully it happens because Michigan has a good squad. Anything you got for the final bell?
No, just thank you for the support and keep continuing to spread the word for us.
Yeah, definitely. Numbers have been great. We had a ton of people watching today. So like I said, football's our main thing we talk about. We might be shifting, just going full on in that direction. Still hitting up some of your Pittsburgh stuff, but just a different shift to the show. I don't know yet. So send us your feedback. Check out the site, southboundsports.com. We have everything there. They're going to be getting into some other topics and things as we go through. But we got some big football weeks. They have the Pro Bowl coming up, Matt. Are they actually doing that? I kept seeing ads for it. And I thought that they would just cancel that altogether. But I guess they're not.
Guess not.
So we'll have that coming up as we get back through. But the coronavirus stuff and having games canceled and really shifting it, football is where it's at. That's where we both have most experience. I know I have good experience playing baseball and stuff, but if the Pirates aren't going to be invested, then why should we? That's my final thought for the show. So thanks for listening. Like I said, go to southboundsports.com. I know we've been going long. I'm trying to keep this show on schedule since the Steelers are out, and we'll try to keep everything an hour or so going forward. But thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.